सारे आले बिखरी हुई उम्मत एक जिस्म के आज़ा की तरह है। मुसलमान अगर किसी मुल्क में नमाज छोड़ने वाले की नमाज के छोड़ने से मुतासिर नहीं हो रहा है तो समझ लो कि उम्मत की इज्तिमाइयत टूट चुकी है।
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum rahmatullah. Welcome back to our London to Nizamuddin podcast, but not coming from London today, coming from Makkah al-Mukarramah, the blessed city. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give me and all of us tawfiq to go again and again Umrah and Hajj. In today's segment, inshallah, we'll be hearing the reading of Hayatus Sahabah. Today's episode is about the advice of Salman Al-Farsi radhiyallahu anhu. Let's listen to Sheikh Saad on the recitation of this.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. مواعظ سلمان الفارسي رضي الله تعالى عنه. وأخرج أبو نعيم في الحلية عن جعفر بن برقانة قال بلغنا أن سلمان الفارسي رضي الله عنه كان يقول أضحكني ثلاث وأبكاني ثلاث ضحكت من مؤمن الدنيا والموت يطلبه وغافل لا يغفل عنه وضاحك ملأ فيه لا يدري أمسكت ربه أم مرضيه وأبكاني ثلاث فراق الأحبة محمد وحزبه وهول المطلع عند غمرات الموت والوقوف بين يدي رب العالمين حين لا أدري إلى النار انصرافي أم إلى الجنة. وأخرج أبو نعيم في الحلية عن سلمان رضي الله عنه قال إن الله تعالى إذا أراد بعبد شرا أو هلكة نزع منه الحياة فلم تلقه إلا مقيتا ممقتا فإذا كان مقيتا ممقتا نزعت منه الرحمة فلم تلقه إلا فظا غليظا فإذا كان كذلك نزعت منه الأمانة فلم تلقه إلا خائنا مخونا فإذا كان كذلك نزعت رقة الإسلام من عنقه فكان لعينا ملعنا. وأخرج أبو نعيم في الحلية عن سلمان رضي الله عنه قال إنما مثل المؤمن في الدنيا كمثل مريض معه طبيبه الذي يعلم داءه ودواءه فإذا اشتهى ما يضره منعه وقال لا تقربه فإنك إن أصبته أهلكك ولا يزال يمنعه حتى يبرأ من وجعه. وكذلك المؤمن يشتهي أشياء كثيرة مما فضل به غيره من العيش فيمنعه الله إياه ويحجزه عنه حتى يتوفاه فيدخله الجنة. وأخرج أبو نعيم لحلية يحيى بن سعيد أن أبا الدرداء كتب إلى سلمان الفارسي رضي الله عنهما أن هلم إلى الأرض المقدسة فكتب إليه سلمان إن الأرض لا تقدس أحدا وإنما يقدس الإنسان عمله. وقد بلغني أنك جعلت طبيبا فإن كنت تبلغ فنعم لك وإن كنت متطببا فاحذر أن تقتل إنسانا فتدخل النار. فكان أبو الدرداء رضي الله عنه إذا قضى بين اثنين فأدبر عنه نظر إليهما وقال مطبب والله ارجعا إلي أعيد قصتكما.
Sheikh Saad says in the introductory notes that, my brothers and elders, remember that ilm and wa'adh, knowledge and advice, is not just connected to ma'lumat and information and research, but ilm and knowledge and advice, sincere advice, is connected to person striving to seek the truth and the quest for seeking the truth. And that person who strives to seeking the truth, and in that journey he goes through struggle and strife and sometimes torture, sometimes degradation of his own honor, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will elevate him to the pinnacle of seeking knowledge and wa'adh. And this example is exemplified in the life of Sayyidina Salman Al-Farsi radhiyallahu anhu. Who was he? He was the closest advisor to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He was a special advisor to him. So much so that when he was advising the Prophet ﷺ, there was no third person. It was him and the Prophet ﷺ. He was a special advisor. He was so special, he relied on him as well. He was reliable and trustworthy. And on his opinion alone, the Prophet ﷺ took the decision to dig the trench in the Battle of Khandaq. What was the reason behind this? Is it because a person can go close to a person because of connection? No. Or because of experience. The word ilham doesn't come from tajarba. Ilham means inspiration. It doesn't come because of experience. Ilham and inspiration from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala comes from exhausting oneself in the path of Allah, and tawazu, being humble in the front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Who was Sayyidina Salman Al-Farsi? In his early life, he was a fire worshipper, Majusi. He was the person who looked after the fire in Isfahan. He was born in Isfahan, Iran. Brief history is that he was inspired by when he visited a monastery on the way from errands but sent by his father, and he looked at the worship and he was inspired and he was very moved by it, and he converted to Christianity. And then he told his father this, and his father chained him up. And what happened, one day he cut from the chains and he went on his way to look for the truth. He asked the monks, Aina asla hazad din? Where is the origin of this religion of Christianity, of Nasrani? And they told him it's in Sham, in Syria. So he took all of his provisions and he went out and he traveled in this intention, and he went to Sham, went to Syria, and he visited a monastery there, and he visited a bishop there as well. And he asked him that, I want to be your student, I want to be a disciple. Please teach me the truth of your religion. And he stayed there for a few years until that person was passing away. And then he went to another place in Mosul in Iraq. He's traveling all alone. He went to Mosul and he met another bishop there. And then he stayed there for a few years until that bishop passed away. And he asked, where should I go now? Tell me please, where should I go now to seek the truth, to stay in the right path? So he told him, go to Amoriya, which is in Turkey, modern day Turkey. And he went all the way, traveled to Turkey as well, and he visited the monastery there, and stayed with the bishop as well until that person passed away. Subhanallah. And you could see a sign that people on the truth slowly going away from the world. And then he asked him, when he was on his deathbed, he asked him again, where should I go now? And the bishop said that in my experience there is nowhere to find the truth except this is the time when the last prophet alayhi salatu salam will be arriving on this world. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will send the last prophet, and I will tell you some signs. He will be living in the land of the Arabs, where date palms are, and he will have 3 signs. Number 1 is that when you visit him, number 1 is that he will not accept sadaqah. He will not accept charity. Number 2, he will only accept hadiyah. If you give him hadiyah, he will accept it. And number 3, you will see the sign and the khatam of the prophethood in the back of his shoulder, in between his shoulder blades. The seal of the prophethood there. These are the 3 signs. So Sayyidina Salman Al-Farsi, he made an intention to go to visit the land of the Arabs. So he saw a caravan, he met a caravan that they were telling him that we will be going to the land of the Arabs as well. So he joined them. But the thing is that the chief of the tribe of that caravan deceived him, and they sold him as a slave. So he ended up in the land of the Arabs, but as a slave. Subhanallah. And for a few years, so many years, he was in Arabia, in Arabia, in the land of the Arabs, but he did not know that the Prophet ﷺ was there, because he is Ba'asat, and the Prophet ﷺ is coming into Mecca and then to Medina. He was not aware of this, and then he became a slave of a Jew in next to Medina. And this is just to searching for the truth. How many obstacles he had to go through, brothers. Today we see people who are searching the truth, instead they see the batil and they think this is the truth and they sit on it. But because he was living in the land of the Arabs, he didn't complain, and he didn't want to escape as well. So he stayed as a slave for so many years, thinking that maybe the Prophet ﷺ, the last Prophet, will come. I don't know who he is, I don't know where he's going to come, but I will stay here. One day what happened is that he was climbing on the date palm tree on top of that, and all of a sudden one person came. Two people came from Khazraj to the Jew, the owner of Salman Al-Farsi, and they were starting complaining about a person coming to Quba. They were saying that a person, so and so person, has come and is claiming to be a prophet, claiming prophethood, and he has come to our city, and he wants to convert everyone in Khazraj to his religion. And Salman radiallahu anhu was hearing this conversation. And then Salman is saying that when I heard this conversation, I was so happy, full of joy. I went down, climbing down, and they nearly fell on top of my own owner, so much so because of the excitement. And I asked the owner, when I asked them, what are you talking about? Please tell me more. The owner saw me and he slapped me in the face and he said, what business is this to you? This is none of your business. Go back to work. I went back to my place, and in the night time I took some provisions, and on the way I took some sadaqah money or dates or something like that in the provisions, and these were sadaqah, charity, in order to carry out the first test, that will he accept sadaqah or not. I met the Prophet ﷺ in Quba when he was first arriving after Hijrah, and I presented him these provisions in front of him, these items, and told him that, Ya Prophet of Allah, O Muhammad ﷺ, you have come from a long journey, this is some provisions for you, and this is sadaqah. He took the items and he passed on to the Sahabas, and in his mind Salman is saying that this is number one. He didn't accept the sadaqah. The next day I went with some provisions and I gave to him. I said, O Muhammad ﷺ, I am a Parsi from Iran, and I have in front of me there is some provisions for you, and I will give it to you as hadiyah, as a gift. And then the Prophet ﷺ accepted this gift. He himself said inside that this is number two, sign number two. Then he thought to himself, how can I look for the third sign of Mahr Nabuwat, the sign of the prophethood, and this will be behind his clothes, in front, and just between the shoulder blades. So a few days I went, and then there was a janazah happening in Quba, and I went and I followed the janazah, and when they were returning, I was behind the Prophet ﷺ and trying to peek inside his shirt if there's any Mahr Nabuwat, and I was peeking, going left and right, trying to peek inside. The Prophet ﷺ knew this, he recognized this, and he recognized what Salman Al-Farsi was doing. Then the Prophet ﷺ opened, he said to him, look, and he opened his own shirt, and he saw the Mahr of Nabuwat, the size of an egg, and he was so emotional and so excited that Salman said, I was so emotional and I was so happy that I hugged the Prophet ﷺ from behind. People hugged from in front, he hugged him from behind, and I was crying emotionally, my tears was bursting out. So the Prophet ﷺ was surprised. He said, come here, what is your story? And then Salman said that I told the whole story of my life and the journey and the beginning of my journey of seeking the truth. And the Prophet ﷺ he accepted Islam, and he said, come to the Masjid in Medina, and then he gathered the Sahabas and he said, now tell your story again. Subhanallah. And then the Prophet said, oh Salman, purchase yourself out of slavery. So he went to his owner, the Jew, and he said, grant me freedom from slavery of riq. And so the Jew said, okay, two conditions. Number one, give me 40 uqiyah weight of silver, and number two, within 6-7 years you have to dig me and grow me 300 date palm trees. So Salman said, I went to the Prophet ﷺ, Ya Rasulullah, this is the condition, I want to free from myself from riq, from slavery, but the Jew is giving me two conditions of giving 40 uqiyah of gold, of silver, and cultivating 300 date palm trees. The Prophet, when he heard this, he said to the Sahabas, come and gather some date seeds whatever you can. So some came with 50, some came with 10, some came with another 20, until it became 30 seeds of date seeds. And then he said to Salman, go and sow them into the ground and let me know what happens. These trees are supposed to be growing, fully grown in 3, 6, 7 years, and after just one year, the whole garden trees were grown, fully grown date palm trees. The miracle of the Prophet ﷺ. And then he gathered the Sahabas and he collected 40 uqiyah of silver, and he gave it to the Jew, the owner, and then he became free. He freed himself from slavery. Then you listen to his mu'aiz, listen to his advice, and how much Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave him so much tawazu and so much humbleness, humility, even though he had to go through so much struggle and strife. When Salman became old, two persons, they knew about the famous Salman Al-Farsi and they wanted to visit him. So they asked for directions, that where is the famous Sahabi Salman Al-Farsi, we want to visit him, want to do ziyarat of him. He was the governor in Madain as well. So they wanted to provide him a palace to stay in. Salman Farsi, his tawazu, look at it. He said, I don't want no palace, I don't want no house. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's trees is enough for me. I will lie down on this shade. So the people persisted, said, no, you have to protect yourself from wind and storm and rain. But they were so persistent, he said, okay, if you want to build me a house, build me a hut, a small hut, so made of wood, so much so that if I stand up, my head touches the ceiling, and if I lie down, my feet touches one end of the wall, and my head touches the other end of the wall. So much simplicity in his life. And after this, they built the hut according to his advice. So these two brothers went to see Salman Farsi, and they told him that, Mubarak, congratulations, you are the Sahabi, you are the companion of the Prophet ﷺ. He just blatantly said, I'm not a Sahabi. Salman Farsi saying, I'm not a Sahabi. He's denying himself being a Sahabi. May Allah forgive us today. We ourselves, we go forward to our others and say, I am the Khalifa of so and so. So much so. Announcing their own Khilafat in front of others. And say that I'm so and so big alim. And if all the people were together and visited one tabi'i, including him, and the rest will not be equal to one adna sahabi, one minor sahabi. This is Salman Farsi radiallahu anhu, and his tawazu, his humility. So when they heard this, they were surprised, looked at each other, they said, okay, let's go around somewhere and look for the real Sahabi, the real Salman Farsi radiallahu anhu. They were just about to go and look for the real Salman Farsi. Maybe this guy is another Salman Farsi, another Salman. And then they asked him on the way, turned around and asked him, did you see the Prophet ﷺ? He said, yes. Did you participate in the ghazwa, in the battles with the Prophet ﷺ? He said, yes. Yes, I stayed in Medina, I stayed in all the ma'araka, and I stayed with him in all the battles as well. Then why are you saying you're not a Sahabi then? No, listen, in the day of judgment, if I am present with the Prophet ﷺ, and if I'm granted Jannat with him, then I'm called a Sahabi in my eyes. If I'm claimed to be Sahabi in the next life, then I'm a Sahabi. I cannot claim myself to be a Sahabi now, today. Subhanallah. This is the advice of Salman Farsi. Ta'afir bin Barqan reports that the report reached him that Sayyidina Salman Farsi used to say that there are 3 people who make me laugh, and there are 3 people who make me cry. Number 1, that person who makes me laugh is the one who entertains lengthy hopes. He has high hopes in this world, yet death is constantly searching for him. Yatlabuhu is searching for him all the time. And the other person is I laugh at that person, that he is negligent, the person who is negligent, ghafil of death, but yet death is not unaware of him. Death is aware of that person. And I smile at that person funnily and just out of shock. That person who's laughing so much so he's cackling, laughing and cackling, laughing so much so that, but he does not know if Allah Ta'ala is happy with him or angry with him. And 3 things make me cry. Number 1, that things make me cry is separation with the Prophet ﷺ and the Sahabas. And the second one is on the time of death, when the pangs of death happen, and I do not know where I'm going to go. And the third thing I fear is that standing in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala day of judgment, and I know not whether I should be heading for the fire of Jahannam or Jannah. This is Salman Al-Farsi radiyallahu anhu. Another saying of his, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala intends the destruction, the halakat to come on the people, what does Allah ta'ala do? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala strips them of haya and modesty, and you will find that he becomes a person who hates people and they hate him. Nowadays we see people trying to justify things for themselves, and ends up haya, ends up with immodesty and no haya, no modesty, and people are, some so-called scholars, they say that we are advancing in fiqhi masail, but instead they are spreading haya, they are spreading immodesty. So when the haya goes, then people start to hate him, and he will start to hate people as well. When this occurs, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala takes away mercy from him, and you find that he becomes vulgar and hard-hearted, he uses foul language, and then when this happens, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala removes trustworthiness from him, and you then find him to become treacherous, con artist, and being treated treacherously by others as well. So he's become treacherous, and people as well, they betray him as well. When this happens, then the brace of Islam is eventually snatched off his neck, and he becomes one who is cursed by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and by all creation. May Allah save us. Sayyidina Salman Al-Farsi also says, the example of a mu'min, a believer in this world, is like a sick person who has with him a physician, a doctor who knows every illness and every cure. So when the person desires something that is harmful for him, the doctor, the physician prevents him and from taking it, saying that do not go near that, because you will be destroying yourself if you do. For example, if someone's got a fever, they wouldn't take cold water. He continues preventing him from thinking in this manner until the person is completely cured of his disease. In the same manner, in the same example, a mu'min desires great number of things of comfort in his life. He wants to be given riches, he wants to be living an opulent life, and he sees the people around him being rich and famous, but he has the desire. However, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala prevents him from it and shields the evil of this dunya from it until he dies, after which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because of his patience, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala admits him into Jannah. Abu Darda radiallahu anhu narrates that once Salman Farsi inviting him, Abu Darda wrote a letter to Salman, and he's saying, inviting him to come and stay in the blessed land of Sham, because in those days Abu Darda radiallahu anhu was a very close friend of Salman, and he was staying in Palestine in Masjid al-Aqsa. SubhanAllah, look at the reply of Salman Farsi. Is that in al-arda la tuqaddas ahadan, that in reality no plane of earth can make a person pure. Wa innama yuqaddasu al-insan amalu, that a person can become pure through his actions. So today we want to do hijrat. We want to go in good environment and Islamic state or Islamic environment. But in reality, that thing that will make you pure is your own amal. Wherever you are, wherever you live, wherever in the world, corner of the world you live. And then he said to Salman Farsi, he said to Abu Darda, that it has reached me that you have become a qazi, a judge. He said to him, congratulations to you if you are able to cure people, settle their cases justly. But if you are a quack, meaning you're not aware of what's going on, if you are just, then that's alhamdulillah. But if you are amateur, then beware that you do not kill a person and have a person wrongly executed, because of which you will have to enter Jahannam. As a result of this advice, whenever Abu Darda passed a judgment between two people as they were leaving the court, he would say, by Allah, by Wallahi, I have been a quack, amateur, please come back and plead your cases to me all over again. So much so that he gave the position of Qadi and went back to Medina Munawwara. This was the advice of Salman Al-Farsi. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us understanding. Until next time, inshallah, please like and subscribe our podcast. Until next time, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.